What's up, gamers? Welcome back to another episode of the Meta Update. My name is Joshua Joshi Howard, and if I just blew out your eardrums, I'm sorry. I've been messing with things. I did a live stream earlier, so it's been different. We turned things around, and sorry if I'm too loud, but hopefully you can turn the volume down. It should be okay. That should be enough time for you to adjust the volume. Let's go ahead and talk about what happened over this last weekend. So, of course, it was a surprisingly large weekend. There were 65 players playing singles for guard, which again, normally we were between like the low 40s to mid 50s is like a pretty normal sized weekend. So having an extra like 10, 15 players is pretty big. We were just underneath the overall 50%, but we also had like a pretty large number of relatively high elo players playing this weekend. Not as many new players, not as many weaker players playing this last weekend. But one of the big things that was interesting is we had a lot of submarines. So what that means is it's a whenever you're playing in like a Swiss style bracket where you play against people with the same win rate, what always happens is if you just keep winning, you'll play against harder and harder opponents, right? So if you go win, 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 and then loss at the end, it's it's always more impressive than going lose your first round and then win the rest of them because you end up playing generally weaker players because you have a loss in your like in your record. So you're going to play against other people that have lost. Whereas if you win 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 win, you're only playing against other people who are also undefeated, or at least that's generally how it goes. So it was kind of interesting to see. We'll go ahead and talk about it as we go through it. Not a ton of unique stuff this weekend. Uh, Lastly, I've got a big shout out for Matt Landry. Again, if you're interested in web development, if you need something made for you, there is his email. There is a link to the website that he helped build for me down in the description. Go give him a shout. He did good work. Good guy. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into it. To start off with, we have Doombolt Guard. This is, again, we've seen a couple like variations of this. It has changed over time as we've gotten access to more data sheets, as we've just had more stuff come out as the meta has changed around us. But let's go ahead and talk about what was actually played. To start off with, we have David Gaylord going 7-1 at the UK Games Expo Birmingham, run by Games Workshop. Um, it was a little bit interesting. It was a little bit off the beaten path, but still like recognizable as most of the core of the Doombolt list. He had a Kading Castellan, a Kading Command Squad, Graves in Car, Gaunt's Ghost, 3 Silent Command Squads, 1 Ogre Bodyguard, 1 unit of 20 Cadians, 3 Chimeras, 1 Field Runners Battery, 3 Kazarkin, 3 units of 5 Krieg Engineers, 1 unit of Aquilons, 1 unit of 10 Scions, and 2 units of 5 Scions. So, of course, the big change here is kind of what you do with that last chunk of points. And this version of it includes the Graves and Car, Gaunt's Ghost, and a Field Ordnance Battery as like the big, and Aquilons as kind of like the big departures from what we're typically used to seeing. Oftentimes, a bunch of other lists will include something like a Rogel Dorn or Commissar Yarick or Commissar Graves on foot or Nork Deadog. But this one has the Field Ordnance Battery, which was actually super relevant in the one game that we watched, which was Purge the Foe against Brian Sipes Tau. The Aquilons are like an interesting little tech piece. They are still kind of annoying to deal with, and Gaunt's Ghost just kind of helps solve a lot of problems in general. But it was a little bit interesting because like there's no way in this to really order chimeras. You can order like one chimera with the Gravesmobile. And so overall, it still does a lot of the things what we want to, where we just want to go brawl with the opponent pretty effectively, but it's got a couple of extra tools to do a little bit of extra chip damage as opposed to potentially scoring a little bit better. Overall, David Gaylord ended up playing against Custodes Tau. He played up against CSM 4 times. He beat it twice. He lost to it once. Then he beat Eldar, CSM, and Emperor's Children for a 7-1 result overall. It was really interesting. Again, he played up against Brian Sipe on stream. He might have also played another game on stream, maybe against Innes Wilson. I don't remember exactly, but he definitely played at least one game. So if you are interested in that, go check out the official Warhammer stream. You can find it on YouTube and Twitch. Moving on, we have Scott McCutcheon at the same event playing a list very similar to the one that I have recommended in the tutorial that I made a while back. Big changes here are instead of playing like a Nork Deadog and like a unit of Death Corps of Krieg, this substitutes those out for a Cyclops and Gaunt's Ghosts. The Cyclops is interesting. It's just a 25-point filler, but the Gaunt's Ghost is a pretty notable change. It this version is a little bit weaker at primary, but has a little bit more tools to just like create space towards the end. And then Gonskos also does some of the screening that we would normally be doing with that second unit of 10 battle line coming in. Scott here overall beat Necrons, Space Wolves, lost to CSM and Imperial Knights before beating the same Space Wolves player again, beating CSM, Ultramarines, and Custodies for an overall record here of 6-2. Over at the 5th GT of Andorra, we have Pepe Andrew once again going 4-1. He had a Caden Castellan, Caden Command Squad, 3 Song Command Squads, Nork Deadeye, and Ogre Bodyguard, 1 Rugaldorn Commander, 1 unit of 20 Cadians, 2 units of 10 Krieg, 3 Chimeras, 3 Kazarkin, 2 units of 5 Krieg Engineers, 1 unit of 10 Scions, 2 units of 5 Scions. This is exactly the list that we have been seeing over and over again in Europe, in particular, anywhere that plays a lot of WTC. This is the one that Gustavo de Sousa, in particular, was pioneering and playing on big stages. Pepe ended up beating Death Guard, losing to Demons before beating Death Guard, Necrons, and Orcs. All right, moving on. Over in Dark Sphere, somewhere in the UK, we had Matt Puffett, a player who I've not seen play guard before, playing again. Like, we're starting to see more departure. This is pretty close to what Gustavo has been promoting as the no Dorn version of Doombolt. It's a Caden Castellan, Caden Command Squad, Graves on foot, who will attach to a Scion Command Squad, 10 Scions, and Nork Deadog in order to give them fallback, shoot, and charge. Yark is going to go with a unit of Scions and a unit of Scion Command Squad, and that will all go in a Chimera. And then the Ogre Bodyguard will attach to the Caden Castellan. You have 20 Cadians, 2 units of 10 Krieg, 3 Chimeras, 1 Cadian Recon, 3 units of Kazarkin, 3 units of 5 Krieg Engineers, 2 units of 5 Scions, and 1 unit of 10 Scions. So again, this is very much about can you find the really big tempo play and the 2 or 3 for 1 trade that you can get with Yark and those Scions while they are in the Chimera. You get a lot of tempo, you get a lot of primary, or you get to shoot a lot of your opponent's army really, really hard. Matt here ends up beating Ultramarines, Tau losing to Ultramarines before beating Ultramarines again, and then Blood Angels to close it out, going 4-1. Next we have Clayton Grice. I think it's Grice. I remember asking him at some point. I think it's Grice, but it might be Greece. Either way, it is a Caden Castellan. This is, again, very similar to the list that I have promoted in the past. Caden Castellan, Caden Command Squad, 2 Scion Command Squads, Nork Deadog, 2 Rugaldorn Commanders, 1 unit of 20 Cadians, 1 unit of 10 Cadians, 2 Chimeras, 1 Torax, only 3 Kazarkin. Of course, you cannot take 4 Kazarkin, 3 units of 5 Krieg Engineers, and 2 units of 5 Scions. Of course, the big trade here is taking out the by downgrading 1 Chimera to a Torax and removing 1 unit of 10 dudes. That's how you end up paying for it in this list. Clayton here ends up beating Orcs CSM, a very narrow loss to Necrons before being World Leaders and Emperor's Children. So congratulations to Clayton on another 4-1. Next, let's go ahead and talk about the couple of recon lists that we had this last weekend. One of them was very normal, one of them was very not. The first one we had is Matt Chavez at the Oil City Showdown, a very small event in, I believe it was Wyoming, only 20 players. Matt ended up going 4-1 here with 2 Caden Castellan, 3 Caden Command Squads, Gonskos, 3 Ogre Bodyguards, Ursa Creed, 3 20s of Cadians, 3 10s of Catachan, 4 10s of Krieg, and 1 20 of Krieg, 2 units of 10 Rough Riders, Caden Recon, 2 units of 5 Krieg Engineers, and 1 Scout Sentinel. I know if Nemo was looking at this, he would really want there to be at least 1 more unit of Engineers by dropping probably a unit of Catachan, and then also he's been really, really into having more Cadian Recon, but it's the kind of thing where if you have not had time to hobby it up in time, it might not end up coming out. Matt here beat Tau Ultramarines, lost to Guard Andre Gorn, another player who's been in some of these videos before beating CSM and Guard again. So well done to Matt. He had another pretty good run at Rocky Mountain Open, I think it was. So 2 pretty good events in a row definitely will make that ELO something to be respected. Okay, next, Mountain West Classic run by Green Banner. We had Derek Post, a player whose name I have not seen pop up before at all, with a very different take on Recon. Derek here ended up having a Caden Castellan, just one of them, 2 Caden Command Squads, Yarick, who I'm not overly fond of in Recon, Gonskos, a Krieg Command Squad, Nork Deadog, 1 Rogaldorn Commander, so bringing in an actual tank, something we have not really seen since Nico of Team France brought it to WTC, Slay Marbo, Ursula Creed, two 20-mans of Cadians, so one with the Casta and one with Ursula, two 10-mans of Catachan, a 20-man of Krieg, which I'm assuming is going to be joined by Yarick, Krieg Command Squad, and Nork Deadog, would be my guess. Two units of 10 Krieg, one Torox, one unit of 10 Rough Riders, one Kazarkin, and one unit of 5 Ratlings. So this ends up giving up quite a bit of dudes in order to bring the Rogaldorn commander. Again, the Rogaldorn is 290, and if you're pricing dudes at 65, that is 40. It's like 45 dudes. By taking this Rogaldorn commander, which is a pretty big departure from how you would generally play a lot of recon lists in general. But it ended up being pretty successful here. Derek ended up losing to Eldar. Kyle Perry, a strong player down in Southern California, hoarding Guard, Demons, Tyranids, Guard, and Emperor's Children for 5-1 overall. So again, congratulations to Derek, player I have not seen before, on making it into the videos. Alright, next let's talk about some things that have a lot of tanks in them. To start off with, I've been very surprised at how consistently I've been featuring Steel Hammer in all these videos. I still don't think it's particularly good, but one of the things that I think people have kind of forgotten about a lot of these like super heavies is, even though it has they have like a 40% win rate overall, and Steel Hammer does not have a very good win rate. One of the big things about like super heavies and going with these like very heavy tank lists is, some percentage of armies just can't deal with it, right? And when you just have a super heavy that's toughness 13, 2-up save, is usually going to have a 4-up invul from the Engine Seer, some armies can't kill that, especially with all the other things that they also have to kill. And so you can get some number of wins just by going first or second on the right missions and shooting your opponent really, really hard and presenting them with too many tanks that they cannot deal with. It's not the most consistent strategy in the world, because sometimes you'll run into armies that just can deal with it. And so then you need to be a more sophisticated player, shall we say, in order to actually like make some of those work when you're playing this crazy skew. But Juanfra Ortega, going 4-1 at the 5th GT and Dora, did it with a Baneblade that was turned into a character with a battalion commander, so it can order itself. Gaunt's goes 2 Rogaldorn commanders, an Engine Seer with the Engine Speaker, so the one that gives you +3 move. 2 units of 5 Rough Riders, 1 unit of Kazarkin, 2 Leonard Vanquishers, and a Rogaldorn Battle Tank. So a Baneblade, 2 Rogaldorns, a Rogaldorn Battle Tank, and 2 Vanquishers. So he's only got a couple of things to like run around, but this is definitely the kind of list where some of your tanks have to screen for your other tanks. And then also looking at when you're playing against a lot of these armies, it makes sense. Tyranids and Orcs can't deal with this many tanks. They really, really, really struggle to kill anything with a 2-up save at all. And so when you're presenting them with the Baneblade, 2 Commanders, 2 Vanquishers, and a Dorn Battle Tank, asking them to kill 6 things with a 2-up save, they're just not going to be able to do it. So very good stuff here from Juanfra Ortega overall. And congratulations on your 4-1. Next, going back to Dark Sphere, we have Anthony Keene going 4-1, another player whose name I don't think I've featured in any of these videos before. Anthony was playing a Cadian Command Squad, Graves in Car, Gaunt's Ghost, 1 Scion Commander, 2 Rogaldorn Commanders, 1 unit 10 Cadians, 1 unit 10 Catachan, 2 units of 10 Krieg, a Chimera, a Torox, 5 Death Riders, 2 units of Kazarkin, 1 unit of 5 Scions, and 2 Vanquishers. So pretty normal looking double Dorn, double Vanquisher list here overall. Kind of going halvesies on the like split that you will oftentimes see of you generally will either go heavier into transports plus Kazarkin, or heavier into like the 60-point units. Anthony kind of like splits it down the middle, not having quite as many 60-point units and also not going all the way into Kazarkin with transports. Ends up working out just fine here. Anthony ends up beating Emperor's Children, Guard, losing to Tyranids before beating Death Guard and Necrons, ending up with a 4-1 and getting 2nd overall. So congratulations to Anthony on that one. And then we're going to be moving on to Lane Nussbaum, getting 4-1 and 2nd place at the Oil City Showdown, the same one that we saw Matt Chavez with the Recon. Lane here playing, I believe, the exact same list that we saw the last time he was featured in a video. Cadian Command Squad with Grand Strategist, Rogaldorn Commander with the Death Mask of Alanius, a 2nd Rogaldorn Commander, 2 units of 10 Cadians, 2 units of 10 Catachan, 2 units of 6 Bulgrin, 1 unit of 5 Ratlings, 1 Lemurus Exterminator, 1 Rogaldorn Battle Tank, and 3 Scout Sentinels. So getting a bit of the best world, best of both worlds between Grizzled, and combined with the lethals and the reroll ones from the 3 Scout Sentinels, there are still a fair number of cheap units. 3 Scout Sentinels, 2 units of Catachan, and Ratlings as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, just 60-point units that you can just throw out, make your opponent deal with them. And then you have a bunch of hammers between the 3 Rugel Dorns, the Exterminator, and to a lesser extent, both units as 6 Bulgrin. Lane here ends up beating Orcs, Knights, Guard, Custodes, and then losing, unfortunately, in a very close game in the finals to Emperor's Children. Also, very funnily, getting 79 points in 3 games in a row. So congratulations to Lane on a good final event, getting 2nd place out of 20 here at Oil City Showdown. All right, got a couple more lists to show you. First one we have is at OK Spellen. OK Spellen 4, Joel Larson. This is somewhere in the Nordics. I can't remember. I can't remember which one of the countries it's in, but it's somewhere up in the Nordics. Joel Larson, very strong player in the region. Definitely not 1546, a lot higher than that. Canadian Command Squad, Commissar with that Puma Tail, the Graves in Car, Silent Command Squad, a Roguethorn Commander with the Aquilin Eye. So really can only do it on... actually, we'll get to that in a sec. 1 unit 10 Cadians, 1 unit 10 Catachan, 1 Chimera, 1 unit 5 Rough Riders, 2 units of 6 Bulgrin, Kazarkin, 1 unit of Quillins, 1 unit of 5 Sans, 2 Luminous Battle Tanks, and Scout Sentinels. So my expectation here is honestly that the Roguethorn Commander is giving the plus AP to the Luminous Battle Tanks, which are kind of an odd inclusion in Grizzled Company in general, because the rule of Grizzled is while you have an order, you reroll 1s, and Luminous Battle Tanks just reroll 1s all the time anyway. But if you can give them plus 1 AP via Aquilin Eye and make the main Battle Cannon AP2, becomes a little bit more interesting. Then you can pop Ignores Cover on it. So suddenly you have these AP5 Meltas that are ignoring cover, which does allow it to punch up a little bit more. The big inconsistency here, of course, is the fact that with those Meltas, a lot of the main targets you're going to be shooting at them, like Repulsor Executioners or whatever, you're going to be wounding on 5s. So you'd have to be a little bit careful with it, but it is an interesting idea. It is backed up by Bulgrin and a reasonable number of other things to play the midboard. So plenty of little things. It's got the battle tanks. It's got an interesting idea. Joel here, very strong player over in the Nordics, ends up beating Knights, Necrons, Emperor's Children twice in surprisingly close games, and then losing to Ultramarines in his 5th round. Next, we have Alex Higgins, also at Dark Sphere. It was not that large of an event. It was like 40 players, but I think like 7 of them were guard players. It was some absurd number. Alex Higgins going 4-1 here with a Canadian Command Squad with Spec Ops Veteran. So again, that gives unit stealth. Gaunt's Ghost, Silent Command Squad, 2 Roguethorn Commanders, 1 unit of 10 Cadians, 2 Tauroxes, 1 Cadian Recon, 2 units of 5 Death Riders, 2 units of Kazarkin, 2 units of 5 Ratlings, 1 unit of 10 Sans, and a Roguethorn Battle Tank. So really interesting thing here, of course, is the fact that there are 3 infiltrating units, 2 units of Ratlings, and the Cadian Recon. So you can really lock down the board if your opponent does not have any infiltrating at all. And if you go first, you just create so much space for the rest of your army that it will make it very easy to score primary. Unfortunately, if you go second, you do have to be very careful that you don't lose all of these pieces immediately. So a bit of a trade-off there. But it's backed up, of course, by 3 Rogel Thorns, 2 Commanders, and 1 Battle Tank, and then a decent number of skirmishing units to play the middle of the board. A couple of interesting ideas here, of course, but it is still, at the end of the day, 3 tanks and then a bunch of other stuff to create space for those tanks. Alex loses the first round to CSM before beating Thousand Suns, Ultramarines, Custodes, and Chaos Knights. And that's it. That's the last list I have to show you guys. As you can probably tell from the stream that I did earlier today, if you were watching, I am not, my attention span for 10th is a lot shorter than it was not that long ago, so I will be kind of breezing through these meta updates over the next couple of weeks. However, if you want more Joshi content, I will be doing more streams as we start looking a little bit more at all of the upcoming stuff that they are releasing for 11th. There's at least one more PDF they're going to be showing to us, and then the mission pack will probably have its own stream entirely. I might stream a couple of games of 11th edition as we get more and more rules and we get to see more and more of that stuff. And then, of course, be ready for more and more officer training schools, some revamps of some different units as they get new rules, as we get new stuff going on, and the hippogriff and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll see you guys all next time. Bye-bye.